Meline Swan is at home with her heavily drunk mother when she notices something outside, a figure moving in the snow. Before she can react, a masked man appears. Panicked, Meline tries to wake her mother, but she's completely out cold. With no other option, she runs to hide. The masked man enters and introduces himself as Liat Cypher Safin. He reveals that his entire family was killed by Meline's father, Mr. White, under orders from Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Without hesitation, Liat Cypher shoots and kills Meline's mother. He then turns his attention to finding Meline. In a desperate attempt to defend herself, Meline fires several shots at him, seemingly taking him down. She struggles to drag his body outside into the snow, but he's not actually dead. Terrified, Meline runs across a frozen lake, but the ice gives way, and she plunges into the freezing water. As she struggles to stay afloat, Liat Cypher watches from above. Something in him shifts, and instead of letting her drown, he decides to pull her out and save her. Years later, Meline is on a vacation with James Bond, urging him to relax as she notices him constantly scanning the area. She reassures him that there's no threat. That night, as they lay in bed, she brings up his past lover, Vesper, who is buried nearby. She believes he needs to move on so they can have a real future together. Convinced, Bond agrees to visit her grave the next morning. He kisses Meline goodbye and heads to the cemetery. At the graveyard, a young caretaker guides Bond to Vesper's resting place. He quietly tells her he still misses her. Then, he notices a nearby card with the Spectre logo. Before he can react, the grave suddenly explodes. Bond barely recovers from the blast and, fearing for Meline's safety, rushes back to their apartment. Before he gets there, a car tries to run him down. He dodges it, but soon finds himself surrounded by Spectre agents led by Primo, a mercenary with a high-tech bionic eye. They open fire. Bond leaps off the bridge, lands below, and takes off running. Primo cuts him off, but Bond doesn't hesitate. He attacks. During the scuffle, Primo sneers that Blofeld sends his regards and drops the bombshell that Meline is the daughter of Spectre. Bond doesn't have time to process this. He grabs Primo's bike and speeds off to the apartment. Once inside, Bond confronts Meline, demanding to know how Spectre tracked him. She's terrified, unable to answer. Furious and distrustful, Bond leaves with her in his car. Soon, they're chased by armed mercenaries. During the chase, Meline gets a call. It's Blofeld, taunting her, claiming that her sacrifice will be worth it. She insists she didn't betray Bond, but he doesn't believe her. As they try to escape, Bond uses mines from his car to slow down their pursuers. But it's not enough. A car slams into them, and they're surrounded. The attackers fire relentlessly at the bulletproof car. Bond remains still, assessing the situation as Primo attempts to break the windows. Meline panics, realizing they're both targets. In an instant, Bond activates the car's headlight guns, unleashing rapid gunfire in all directions. He then releases smoke and speeds away. When they reach the train station, he tells Meline goodbye, pushing her onto a train. He coldly tells her she'll never see him again. 5 years later, Spectre operatives storm a top-secret MI6 lab. Inside, scientist Valdo Abrachev receives a warning from his secret employer, Liat Cypher, telling him Spectre is coming for him. Staying one step ahead, Abrachev transfers files onto a memory card and swallows it just as the lights go out. Spectre agents, led by Primo, break in, eliminating security and rounding up the scientists. They demand Abrachev take them to Heracles, a cutting-edge DNA-targeting bioweapon. Once he complies, they kill the other scientist. The agents then activate a device that magnetizes the elevator shaft, allowing them to descend quickly before blowing up the lab. Back at MI6, M is informed of the attack and decides to spin it as a gas leak. Meanwhile, he orders Bond to be tracked down. Bond, now retired in Jamaica, lives a quiet life. One day, he returns to his villa and immediately senses something is off. Someone has been inside. He notices a lingering cigar, a clear sign of an intruder. Suspicious, Bond heads into town and quickly realizes he's being followed. He loses his tail, only to run into his old friend, CIA agent Felix Leiter, who introduces him to a State Department agent named Logan Ash. They need Bond's help extracting Abrachev from Cuba, where Spectre is hosting a gathering. At a club, Logan explains the mission, but Bond turns him down. As he heads to his car, he finds it disabled. The woman from the bar, a mysterious figure, offers him a ride on her motorcycle. She introduces herself as Nomi and takes him back to his villa. Bond quickly figures out she's MI6. She warns him to stay away from Abrachev, or she won't hesitate to take him out. Before leaving, she tosses him a phone, instructing him to contact M. Then, she casually reveals that she's the new 007. Meanwhile, M has Q investigate Abrachev's files, but refuses to explain his reasoning. When Bond calls M, demanding answers about Spectre's involvement, M shuts him down, telling him to stay out of it. Bond, however, isn't one to take orders. Determined, he reaches out to Felix and agrees to take the mission. Bond sails to Cuba, only to find Nomi already there, casually waving at him. He meets Felix's CIA contact, Paloma, who hands him a suit and reveals she's only had 3 weeks of training. They head to the Spectre party, where Bond quickly scans the room, identifying Spectre agents. He's startled to hear Blofeld speaking to the guests through an earpiece. Meanwhile, Abrachev is forced to prepare a Heracles sample for Primo, but secretly alters its genetic coding before loading it into the ventilation system. Bond is stunned when Blofeld addresses him directly, announcing that tonight is Bond's end. The bioweapon is released through the vents, meant to kill Bond. Instead, it wipes out every Spectre agent present. Realizing Abrachev is behind the switch, Bond captures him and snatches the memory card. Nomi swings in from above, grabbing Abrachev, but is forced to fight off Spectre agents. Bond and Paloma take out more attackers and manage to escape with Abrachev just before police swarm the scene. Bond delivers Abrachev to Felix's boat, demanding answers. Abrachev insists Bond was never the target and that everything went according to plan. Bond suspects M is behind the plot to kill Spectre, but Abrachev reveals the truth. It was Logan Ash. Logan suddenly turns, shooting Felix. Bond retaliates, but Logan escapes, locking Bond and Felix below deck before setting off an explosion. As water rushes in, Felix, fatally wounded, tells Bond to leave him behind. Bond refuses at first, but ultimately has no choice. Felix dies, taken by the water, as Bond barely escapes. Bond returns to MI6, where Nomi demands answers. Ignoring her, he barges into a meeting with M. Their confrontation is tense. M accuses Bond of making things worse, while Bond fires back, reminding M that he created the very weapon that's now loose. M dismisses him, saying his services are no longer needed. Frustrated, Bond meets with Q, demanding to know what's on the memory card. Q accesses the data, revealing a massive DNA database. Bond realizes Blofeld might have answers, but there's only one person with access to him, his psychiatrist, Meline Swan. Unaware of what's coming, Meline arrives at her office for a client session. Sitting across from her is none other than Lyot Cypher, but she doesn't recognize him. Lucifer shares that he once saved someone's life and now believes that creates an unbreakable connection between them. He hands Meline a box, and when she opens it, she's stunned. It contains a shattered mask. The realization hits her like a ton of bricks, and she demands to know what he wants. Lucifer reminds her that while she blames him for her mother's death, it was actually her father who wiped out his entire family. Now, he's asking for a favor. He wants her to wear a special cologne infused with Heracles when she next visits Blofeld. Meline refuses outright, but Lucifer doesn't take no for an answer. He threatens to harm the person she loves most, revealing that he knows about her secret connection. Meanwhile, Bond confronts M about hiring Meline, pointing out that she's hiding things. M, however, insists that Blofeld will only speak to her. He explains that Heracles was originally designed to protect agents by removing them from dangerous situations, and though he takes full responsibility for the fallout, he's no traitor. He spent his entire life defending his country. But Bond lays it out. Whoever their enemy is, they plan to kill Blofeld first, and then wipe out whoever else they choose to gain absolute power. M realizes the stakes and brings Bond back on board. Nomi enters M's office to find Bond already there and learns he's been reinstated as a 00, though his exact number remains a mystery. The team goes over newly recovered data about a dead Spectre agent, revealing that 5 members of the agent's family also died soon after coming into contact with him. M discloses that Heracles was initially designed to spread through individuals to eliminate a specific target. But now, Abrav has upgraded it to attack entire ethnic groups. This shifts their mission. Bond and Nomi must interrogate Blofeld, track down Abrachev, and put an end to this catastrophe. As Bond and Nomi prepare, Q hacks into the bionic eye Blofeld used to communicate with Spectre, pulling up surveillance feeds. Meanwhile, As Bond is led to Blofeld's interrogation room, he runs into Meline. The encounter shakes him, and when he reaches out to shake her hand, she leaves him hanging, making it clear she has no intention of reconnecting. As they wait for Blofeld, Bond notices her trembling, but she brushes it off. When Blofeld is finally brought in, Meline starts panicking. Bond grabs her arm, but she insists she has to leave. For the first time in years, Bond and Blofeld come face to face. Bond mocks Blofeld's failure in Cuba, but offers to protect him if he gives up a name. Instead of cooperating, Blofeld begins taunting Bond about Meline, revealing that he destroyed Vesper's grave and framed Meline just to get revenge on Bond. Enraged, Bond grabs him, and as another agent tries to intervene, they realize Blofeld is dead. Later, Bond learns that nanobots have permanently bonded to his system. Realizing he touched Meline, he's desperate to find her, but when asked for leads, he feigns ignorance. However, he secretly tracks her down to her childhood home, demanding to know who infected her. Their tense reunion leads to a heartfelt conversation about their past, their mistakes, and their regrets. Bond confesses that he's always loved her and wishes he hadn't pushed her away. They share a kiss, but the moment is interrupted when Meline's daughter, Mathilde, appears, her big secret revealed. Elsewhere, M is updated on Nomi's mission to track Logan. She requests permission to eliminate him, and M acknowledges her solid work but notes that Bond provided the lead. Meanwhile, Bond watches as Meline tucks Mathilde into bed. Though the child bears a striking resemblance to him, Meline insists she isn't his. She then brings him to her father's secret room, revealing the history between her father and Lucifer, how the man killed her mother but spared her. She also tells Bond about Lucifer's family island. Bond immediately takes photos and alerts his team. He tells Meline they have every reason to take Lucifer down, but now, thanks to her, he has a personal one. The next morning, Bond makes breakfast for Mathilde when M calls. Lucifer's island has been located, and satellite images show constant activity. Bond also learns Nomi is closing in on Logan. However, he quickly realizes danger is approaching. Bond rushes to grab Meline and Mathilde, requesting an emergency extraction from Q. As they drive, they notice two cars speeding past, then realize they're being pursued. Bond manages to force one off the road while the other flips and crashes. But soon, more cars, bikers, and even a chopper appear, forcing him to push the vehicle to its limits. Bond veers into a dense, foggy forest, turns off the engine, and continues on foot, carrying Mathilde. He encounters a biker, but Meline swiftly shoots him. Bond tells them to hide in a shack while he creates a distraction, drawing the enemy away. Using an explosive, he takes out the first car. Then, he sets a tow wire trap, causing a biker to crash. Logan arrives, opening fire, but Bond lures him into a trap, causing his car to crash. As Logan crawls out, pleading for mercy, Bond coldly reminds him of Felix before crushing him with the vehicle. At the hideout, Lucifer arrives and abducts Meline and Mathilde. Bond rushes back, only to see them being taken away in a chopper. As he stands there helpless, Nomi finally arrives and picks him up. She's determined to help, and together, they board a plane where M briefs them on their mission: kill Aubachev and Lucifer, retrieve Meline and Mathilde, and eliminate Heracles. Nomi requests that Bond be reinstated as 007, and M agrees. At Lucifer's base, he receives a vial of nanobots tailored for Meline and Mathilde. He taunts Meline, saying she's no better than him. After all, she fell for a killer and had his child. To prove his dominance, he takes Mathilde from her, strolling through his garden of deadly plants as Meline is dragged away. Meanwhile, Bond and Nomi infiltrate the island using a submersible glider. Bond disables the security cameras while Nomi plants a device for Q to scan the layout. They discover a facility where nanobots are being cultivated. As Q loses their signal, the duo break into a lab, capturing scientists. Aubachev tries to flee, but Nomi takes him down hard. They plant explosives throughout the lab and realize Lucifer's plan involves mass genocide. Lucifer then contacts Bond, proposing a meeting. Leaving Nomi with the detonator, Bond warns her to destroy the lab if he doesn't return. Meanwhile, Meline outwits her captors by throwing tea in an enemy's face and locking him inside a room. Bond finds Lucifer sitting with Mathilde. The villain demands Bond disarm himself if he wants her back. Bond plays along, but quickly kills Lucifer's men. Lucifer attempts to flee with Mathilde, but she bites his hand, forcing him to abandon her. Nomi, meanwhile, eliminates Obachev after he boasts about Heracles. Bond reunites with Meline and Matilda before reconnecting with Nomi. He orders Q to launch a missile strike on the island. M hesitates due to political ramifications, but Bond insists there's no other choice. He ensures Meline and Matilda escape before heading to confront Lucifer. Lucifer ambushes Bond, shooting him multiple times. Despite his injuries, Bond breaks Lucifer's arm, but the villain retaliates by infecting him with nanobots specifically designed to kill Meline and Matilda. Realizing he can never be with them again, Bond executes Lucifer. Ignoring Q's desperate pleas to escape, Bond reopens the blast doors for the missile strike. He calls Meline one last time, telling her he loves her. As she breaks down, she finally admits that Matilda is his daughter. Bond already knew. He watches as missiles approach, bringing an end to Heracles and to James Bond.